What's up creators, Anthony here, and in today's video, I'm gonna be breaking down the exact scene that you're looking at right now. I love this setup, and after releasing a lot of free training for filmmakers, we've gotten several people asking how I got this look and if I could do a breakdown video outlining the lighting I use, the camera gear, and the settings, and that sort of thing. So let's get into it. First, I'm gonna be breaking down the camera gear and the settings since it will be extremely quick. But first, if you appreciate this type of educational content and you find it valuable, please destroy that like button and hit subscribe. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm and it makes us feel good on the inside, which will eventually translate to more educational content about videography and the business of filmmaking. Okay, back to it. So I'm filming on the Canon EOS R with a 50mm f1.4 lens. I love this prime lens because it's insanely cheap at like $250, but delivers an amazing image with a beautiful blurred out background because of the wide open f1.4 aperture. It's worth mentioning I also own the Canon 1DX Mark II, which is a much better camera, but I don't use it in these tutorials and trainings simply because the 4K files are massive and a little overkill for this type of content. And I found that the 1080p on the EOS R looks a little bit better to me than the 1080p on the 1DX Mark II. I also love that the Canon EOS R has C-Log, which is an absolute joy to color grade, and I think the colors just look phenomenal. I love Canon colors. For scenes like this, when I can control the lighting 100%, I always use C-Log. But keep in mind, if the lighting is bad, the image tends to fall apart when you edit it too much. When I can't control the lighting as much as I like, I don't film in C-Log. I film these videos at 24 frames per second with a shutter speed of 1/50th of a second and an ISO of 200, pretty standard camera settings. And that does it for camera gear. I also use a Zoom H1N paired with a Rode SmartLav Plus to record the audio. Again, super quick and easy. It helps me bust out these videos very quickly. All right, now to get into the juicy lighting details. You might be surprised at how simple and easy this setup is. I'm actually only using one professional light. The rest are all cheap desk lamps that you could get for under $15. Again, this helps me in the speed department. I always look to do things as fast as possible, and only needing to set up one professional light saves me a lot of time. So here's the basic setup. The one professional light I use is the Westcott Solix Apollo. It's like a slightly smaller version of the extremely popular Aperture 120D. I like that it's smaller and also less expensive than the 120D. The only drawback is the light output is slightly lower, but I've honestly never noticed the difference hurting me on a commercial shoot. I've worked with the 120D a bunch and it definitely takes a little longer to set up and is also a little bigger and then harder to travel with. So that's why I like the Westcott. This light is a daylight balanced LED light, so the color temperature is 5600 Kelvin. I place this light as close as I can to myself without getting in the frame. The placement of this light is about 2 feet in front of me, 2 feet to the right, and then raised enough so that it hits me at about a 45-degree angle. The main thing I'm going for in the placement of my light is getting that beautiful, dramatic looking Rembrandt triangle on the shadow side of my face. The softbox I use helps make the light nice and soft and more flattering than a hard light. You can see here the same light without the softbox looks much harsher on my face and definitely shows off some of the imperfections of my skin. You definitely want to keep these things in mind for your own commercial shoots, especially with female talent. We want to make everyone look as beautiful as possible, and softboxes, diffusion panels, stuff like that really help in that area. Right now, I'll show you what this scene looks like when this is the only light I'm using. As you can see, it definitely gets the job done, but there are some important elements missing that definitely take away from the scene by not having them. Now up next we have the backlights. All right, yeah, I'm gonna have to turn this bad Larry back on. Oh God, I can't see anything. Now, you can call these the Hairlights, the Rimlights, whatever floats your boat. Point is, they do a couple of things. First, they shine directly on the back rim of my body and hair, giving me a slight halo effect and helping me stand out from the background. They also add to the symmetry of the scene. Now, I know I am 100% breaking the rule of thirds right now by placing myself in the middle of the frame instead of off to the side, but personally, I love symmetry, and for educational content like this, psychologically speaking, I think the eyes just naturally fall on the middle of the frame and make it really easy to focus on me as the subject with very minimal distractions. These lights help reinforce that symmetry while also acting as backlights. What I love most about these lights, the fact that they're literally my desk lamps. They were there long before I started shooting tutorial content like this. They're a great example of good, practical light sources. They exist naturally in the frame as desk lamps, so it's not offsetting to the viewer. It's not like there's two massive aperture 120Ds sitting on my desk. That would be very distracting. Again, here's what the scene looks like with them, and here's what the scene looks like without them. Like I said before, I definitely prefer having these lights on. One, they add to the symmetry, and then two, they give me that halo effect around the edges of my body, which helps me separate myself from the background and give more depth to the scene. Without the lights on, you don't have that line of light around the rim of my body, and it makes me kind of blend into the background. The scene looks flatter and less dynamic. And now the coup de grace of this entire scene, my absolute favorite light. Yeah, it's that little orange light in the back. Again, it's another $10 desk lamp that I think I've had since I was like 12. It lasted all through college with me, and now I have it again. I've had it for years. It's a beast of a light, and I love it. And one day I just happened to have it on while I was filming, and I was like, wow, that looks 10 times better than not having the light. Now, maybe you don't love this light as much as I do, but for those of you who do love it, the reason you do is because of color contrast. All of the lights that I've used to this point have been pretty much white lights. And now on top of that, the walls of my office are a very cool blue color temperature. Now, by introducing this warm light illuminating this portion of my frame over here, it acts as a complementary color to the otherwise blue and cooler tone of the overall scene. Complementary colors are those across from each other on the color wheel, and this particular color scheme that I'm rocking in this frame is basically the extremely popular and somewhat overused orange and teal look. Personally, I do consider this to be a good balance, and I'm not overdoing it by any means. One really important thing here is that I'm achieving this orange and teal look in camera rather than trying to shove it down your throat by applying tons of LUTs and overdoing the color correction in post. I think the more natural in-camera approach helps a lot. Then again, fun fact about Anthony, I'm actually colorblind, so everything I'm saying could just be complete garbage, and this entire scene could be, in reality, like purple and green. But I like to think that I've studied film enough and I've consumed enough content to have a very good understanding of what looks good and what doesn't. Let me know in the comments, are you surprised that I'm colorblind? AKA, you do think this looks good, or did you know right off the bat this guy has some physical impairment due to how bad this scene looks? All right, back to the lighting here. This is what the scene looks like with all of the lights on except for the color contrast light. So as you can see, the overall color contrast of the entire scene has gone down basically completely. There almost is no color contrast now, aside from this fact that my skin is a different color than the blue walls and whatnot. So I definitely prefer the look of color contrast, so I'll turn that light back on. Again, in the comments, let me know which you prefer, the color contrast or without the color contrast. And that just about does it. Hopefully you all learned something that you can start using in your own commercial productions, and more importantly, I hope this has helped to drive home the fact that lighting is so important. Personally, I know when I first bought my 1DX Mark II, I was hoping for some incredible, game-changing bump in quality, and don't get me wrong, it definitely upped my game like crazy, but with that being said, I wholeheartedly believe focusing on lighting has upped my game 10 times more and allowed me to charge more for my work. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, lighting is expensive, this entire scene was shot using 3 desk lamps and 1 professional light that I got online for like $300. Despite the fact that I have over $1,000 of lighting gear sitting, gathering dust over in the corner of my office, I can do a lot with a pretty creative setup on a really low budget. So at the end of the day, when you get creative, you can do some pretty awesome things and produce some really cool looks without needing to break the budget. And that just about does it for today's video. First off, thank you all for making it to the end. It means a lot to me. And if you like listening to me talk about video production and commercial filmmaking, check out mrpaulxavier.com/14-day filmmaker. We have a ton more training that's all about upping your commercial video production game. Whether it's script writing, shooting great videos, how to do lighting setups like this, it's all about getting your video production skills to the next level so you can succeed as a commercial filmmaker. So like I said, if you want to learn more, check out mrpaulxavier.com/14-day filmmaker. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.